We are convening the 9 a.m. agenda Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection. It is Tuesday, March 16th, 2021, and we are in room 325. And first up, we have Sierra Club Marine Team. We have Senate Bill 348. This is relating to bottled water. And first up, we have Sierra Club Marine Team.
Aloha, Rep. Lowen and Rep. Martin. I'm Lele Shi, and I'm the chair of the Sierra Club National Marine Team. And I'm testifying on behalf of the Sierra Club's over 1 million members. And we are strongly in support of SB 348 for both its environmental and economic benefits. And otherwise, we stand on our testimony. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. And then the Hawaii Food Industry Association.
Thank you, Chair. We'll stand on our testimony.
Thank you. And that is all the people we have signed up to be here in person. Was there anyone else who wanted to testify on this bill? All right, if not, members, any questions? All right, if not, we will move on to the next bill on the agenda, Senate Bill 1054. This is relating to the Brownfields Cleanup Revolving Loan Fund. And first up, we have Office of Planning.
Morning, Chair and members. Rodney Funakoshi from the State Office of Planning. OP stands on its written testimony in strong support of this
We
measure.
can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Up or move closer to your microphone.
Yeah, this is Rodney Funakoshi with the State Office of Planning. OP stands on its testimony in strong support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is everyone we have signed up to submit testimony in person. Is there anyone else here who wants to testify on this measure? If not, members, any questions? All right, if not, we'll move on to Senate Bill 502. This is proposing an amendment to Article 1 of the Constitution of the State of Hawaii to guarantee all individuals the right to have a clean and healthy environment. And first up, we have Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition, Ted Bolin.
Thank you, Chair Lowen, Vice Chair Martin, and members of the Environmental Committee. Our reefs are dying and our climate is heating dangerously. We have protections in our existing Constitution from 1978, but they are subject to the laws. And when there are problems that come up that are not covered by law yet, there's a gap. And sometimes the laws are subject to whims which do not provide adequate protection. We need to have a constitutional right in our Bill of Rights to protect the environment. And we need to make this change. Otherwise, our reefs are going to continue to die. We depend on our reefs for our shoreline protection, for our beaches, for our economy, and our recreational way of life. Please pass this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. And then next we have Retail Merchants of Hawaii. Not present. And the only other person we have who signed up to testify in person is Christopher Dean, an individual. Is he present?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead.
Hi. I'm Christopher Dean, and I'm actually representing Clean the Pacific as an organization that I founded. And I would just like to point out that when the Hawaii Constitution was crafted, and there was less than 1 billion people in this world, and to them, when they made the Constitution, it seemed as though resources were limitless. And there was no way they were inexhaustible. There was no way humanity could have any lasting impact. But now we have 8 billion people on the planet, and it's not protecting in the Constitution. We need to rework the Constitution so that it is ratified that we have clean air, clean water, and a viable, functioning, intact web of life that is functioning in a way that can't be altered or disrupted by man's insatiable quest for capital development and money. So there's always somebody who's going to be trying to rework legislation, rewrite laws, and try to get around so that they can exploit or pollute our natural world. And we need to have something more concrete. And that's why I'm begging all of you to ratify this bill and amend the Constitution so that we can have a clean, functioning, healthy environment for perpetuity. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we did also have written testimony submitted, comments from the Attorney General. We had support from a number of organizations: Hawaii Forest Stewards, Greener Hawaii, Aimua Alliance, We Are One, Hawaii Public Health Association, Hawaii Climate Action Coalition, Our Revolution Hawaii, Friends of Hanama Bay, 350 Hawaii, Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party, Green Amendments for the Generations, comments from Hawaiian Electric, comments from NIOP, comments from Hawaii Association of Realtors, support from Surfrider Foundation, and then we also had 22 individuals submit testimony in support and 1 in opposition. Was there anyone else here who wanted to testify on this measure in person? All right, if not, members, any questions? All right, if not, we'll move on to Senate Bill 347 relating to litter control. This is prohibiting the intentional release of balloons inflated with a gas that is lighter than air. And for in-person testimony, first up we have DLNR, Brian Nielsen.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. This is David Sakota for DLNR. We'll stand on our written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have the Beach Environmental Awareness Campaign, Hawaii, Victoria Anderson.
Aloha, Chair Lowen, Vice Chair Martin, and members of the Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection. My name is Victoria Anderson, and I'm the president of Beach Environmental Awareness Campaign, Hawaii. I'm speaking in very strong support of SB 347 SD1, which prohibits the intentional release of lighter than air balloons in Hawaii. I've submitted detailed written testimony that includes 1,504 signatures in support of taking urgent action on the problem of plastic marine debris, including balloon releases. I've also attached a statement from the Balloon Council showing their support of bans on balloon releases. Third, my written testimony includes photos showing 2,000 balloons being released in just a single event at Nanakuli Beach Park last June 8th, as well as balloon debris collected by beach members on Hawaii's beaches. Balloons are one of the most lethal types of marine debris. They travel high into cold air, which causes them to burst in a brittle fracture pattern that looks like the body and tentacles of squid and jellyfish. Our endangered sea turtles, albatrosses, and other seabirds, marine mammals, and other marine life ingest these balloons, which become stuck in their digestive systems, causing excruciating deaths by blockage, starvation, etc. Moreover, the plastic ribbon attached to balloons can cause injury or death by strangulation. Please pass SB 347 SD1. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we also had Dean Otsuki, an individual who signed up to submit testimony in person.
Aloha, Chair Lowen, many members. My name is Dean Otsuki. I'm in strong support of SB 347, which would prohibit the intentional release of balloons inflated with a gas that's lighter than air. You know, balloons, I witnessed on video in Nanakuli, thousands of balloons being let go into the air. And I know, I mean, pretty much guaranteed that those balloons land in the ocean. And when it lands in the ocean, marine life are going to ingest those pieces of balloons, which is very detrimental to our marine life. There are other alternatives for celebratory events, such as, you know, lays, going out to a nice dinner, planting a tree garden, etc. So please pass SB 347. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to give testimony.
Thank you. And then we also had testimony submitted from Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition in support, Humane Society, Pacific Whale Foundation, and Hawaii Wildlife Fund in support, and then 7 additional individuals in support. Is there anyone else here who wanted to testify on this measure?
Yes, your Chair, I would like to add my support for this bill as well, and representing Clean the Pacific.
Thank you.
Yeah, for the reasons previously stated. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, if not, members, any questions? Great, if not, we will move on to Senate Bill 132 relating to water pollution. This is adding avobenzone and octocrylene to the list of banned sunscreen chemicals. And first up, we have DLNR.
DLNR stands on our written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. And Department of Health.
Good morning, Diana Felton from the Department of Health. We stand on our written testimony.
Thank you. And Hawaii Food Industry Association.
Thanks, Chair.
And
We'll stand on our written testimony in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. The Kahala Center. This is Cindy Punihauli. Are you with us?
Aloha. Aloha. Aloha, Chair Lowen and Co-Chair. Aloha and Co-Chair Martin and members of the committee. I am testifying in strong support of SB 132. Research by scientists all around the world conclude that petrochemicals like octocrylene and avobenzone are detrimental to the marine and human life. The petrochemical sunscreen companies have had over 40 years to prove that their products are safe and effective. In February 2019, the FDA placed these petrochemicals in Category 3, which is insufficient data for use in sunscreens. Research shows octocrylene degrades into benzophenone, a sister chemical to oxybenzone that is recognized by the National Institutes of Health and the World Health Organization to be a mutagen, carcinogen, and an endocrine disruptor. I found that most, if not all, of the chemical sunscreen companies also manufacture FDA-approved mineral-based sunscreen, and some are selling at a very reasonable rate. Because of the questionable effects that these chemicals have on the health of human and marine life, we must apply the precautionary principle. Once industry proves that their product is safe and effective, only then should we allow these products to be marketed. Our corals and our children do not have a voice. We must do what is pono for the environment and for our future generations. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Cindy. And next we have for the fishes, Inga Gibson.
Aloha, Chair Lowen, Vice Chair Martin, committee members. We'll stand on our written testimony and strong support and really appreciate the committee hearing this important measure. Aloha.
Thank you. And Friends of Hanauma Bay, Lisa Bishop.
Aloha, Chair Lowen. Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Thank you. Aloha, Chair Lowen, Vice Chair Martin, and committee members. I'm Lisa Bishop. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on behalf of both Friends of Hanauma Bay and the Hawaii Coral Reef stakeholders Hui, with more than 1,000 constituents, concerned citizens, and international scientists who strongly support Senate Bill 132 SD2. Octocrylene and avobenzone are ubiquitous and pervasive reef toxins. They pose an existential threat to Hawaii's foundational and endemic marine life, including corals, algae, fish, shellfish, sea urchins, and marine mammals. A known hormone disruptor, avobenzone is the leading UVA filter in petrochemical sunscreens. Because octocrylene is found in most of the sunscreen products and anti-aging creams throughout the world, it is the most prevalent environmental pollutant in marine environments, including Hawaii. Worse, octocrylene poses an alarming threat to public health, especially to pregnant women and our keiki. It degrades into benzophenone, a known mutagen, carcinogen, and endocrine disruptor. It is already banned in our country's food products and food packaging. Further, under California's Prop 65, benzophenone is banned from all personal care products, including sunscreens, anti-aging creams, and moisturizers. Hawaii's residents and visitors deserve the same protection from this known carcinogen. Octocrylene and avobenzone in sunscreens are clearly hazardous to our marine environment and pose a serious threat to public health. Please pass Senate Bill 132 today. Industry has had more than 40 years to prove octocrylene and avobenzone are safe for the environment and safe and effective for people, but they can't because they aren't. So there's no need to wait for the results of yet another study. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify in strong support of this bill.
Thank you. Next, we have Legacy Reef Foundation, Bill Coney.
Good morning, Chair Lowen and Vice Chair Martin. Thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning. I realize there's a lot of controversy over what's happening right now with the bill. And I also understand the industry claims that it does not harm coral. As a scientist and engineer, we know the facts and we know that it does. But as a waterman, somebody who's been here for all of my life, and a fifth generation Hawaiian, what I know is what I see. And when I'm in the water, particularly since the pandemic started, the first thing that we and our scientists noticed is the coral started coming back with a vengeance. Within weeks or the first few months, we saw a great turnaround in the coral, and we've seen this in Hanauma Bay and other areas. And it is our belief that the lack of sunscreen has made a dramatic change in the health of the coral and the marine life out there. For me, that's proof enough. Besides the fact that I wouldn't use this on my children, and I wouldn't recommend anybody use this on themselves or their children, we have dire concerns about it, and they have yet to prove that their product is safe. So we ask that you support the bill and allow it to pass. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, D.A. Stein from the Sorbonne University.
Good morning. So I'm Didier Stien from Sorbonne University in France. I speak in favor of the Senate Bill 132. I'm the one that invented a new method to evaluate the toxicity of UV filters on corals, on adult corals. And we demonstrated that octocrylene is the most toxic of all the UV filters that we have tested. Plus, octocrylene decomposes into benzophenone, and that happens in the sunscreen and not when the sunscreen has been opened. It's right from the beginning. So when the sunscreen is made, benzophenone start appearing, and you know that benzophenone gets through the skin into your body and is somewhat toxic to you. So I would not use octocrylene for me or my family, and I don't think it would be a good idea to use that in sunscreen or cosmetic product anymore. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you. And next we have Ian Davies from the PCPC.
Good morning, Chairs Lowen and Martin, members of the committee. My name is Ian Davies, and I'm Director of Environmental Science Programs at the Personal Care Products Council, or PCPC. We're concerned that coral reef decline in Hawaii is being unfairly attributed to the use of ultraviolet or UV filters. As outlined in a recent review paper, which took all science into account, this available science shows that UV filters do not adversely impact coral in Hawaii or other parts of the world. PCPC is also concerned that banning sunscreen active ingredients will have a detrimental impact on public health, especially given the limited number of approved UV filters in the United States. Moreover, an EPA-funded National Academy of Sciences project is currently reviewing the potential environmental and human safety and benefits of UV filters. And we believe the findings of this work will be extremely useful for guiding research and also policy. Thank you for the opportunity to voice PCPC's opposition to SB 132 SD2. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition, Lynn.
Thank you, Chair Lowen, Vice Chair Martin, members of the Environmental Committee. The Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition includes a number of coral scientists, and the group is very concerned about the decline of the reefs. The sunscreens are not the only cause of the decline. There's global warming, there's ocean acidification, sedimentation, overfishing, etc. But one thing we can all do right now is to stop using petrochemical sunscreens with avobenzone and octocrylene, because the scientists who have studied this, who aren't hired by the petrochemical companies, have all concluded that these chemicals are dangerous to the reef, and in addition, they're dangerous to human health. Mineral sunscreens are much safer because they stay on the surface of the skin if they're non-nano, but the chemical sunscreens are absorbed into the skin. They disrupt your hormones and cause other health problems and even cancers. The argument is made that sunscreen is necessary to prevent skin cancer, and that's sort of assumed to be true for many years. What sunscreens actually do is prevent sunburn, and they convince people that it's safe to stay in the sun longer than they should. In the tropical sun, you should either have clothing and a hat to protect yourself or stay in the shade, or if you're going to be in the sun, use a mineral sunscreen that doesn't wash off and kill the reefs, but stays on your skin and is not absorbed into your organs and protects you somewhat from the UVA rays that cause skin cancers, including melanoma, which can be fatal. So we strongly urge the committee and the legislature to adopt this bill and ban avobenzone and octocrylene in the state of Hawaii. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. And then we have the PASS Coalition, Lynn Mia Hira.
Thank you, Chair Lowen. My name is Lynn Mia Hira, and I'm representing the Public Access to Sunscreen Coalition. We all know that sunscreen is one of the tools, the many tools that we can use to prevent skin cancer. But we also know that there's a lot of conflicting science right now. And I will mention that even somebody like Dr. Terry Hughes in Australia, who's the preeminent coral reef scientist from the Center of Excellence for Coral Reef Studies, he penned an article with the title, "There's Insufficient Evidence That Your Sunscreen is Harming Coral Reefs." So there's a lot of conflicting science right now. And I understand that makes it very difficult for legislators or anybody in policy making to make any decisions. And that's why Congress has asked the National Academy of Sciences to conduct this review of all the different studies out there, and to help legislators make a clearer decision, right? And not just in Hawaii, but probably nationwide about sunscreens in general. And we just want to remind people that, sunscreen's not just for the ocean. Consumers use sunscreen in many different cases. So we support a marketing and education campaign for both local residents and visitors to use mineral sunscreens in the ocean. We support that. However, the ocean is not the only place where sunscreens are used, and we need to remember that. And so consumer choice is actually important. And in terms of sunscreen being harmful to humans, the FDA actually came out with an updated, I understand that in 2019, they took off some of these chemicals. It was like 12 chemicals, and they wanted to do more research on them. Well, recently in January of 2021, the FDA came back saying, we did some absorption studies. We're still looking at these, but we want to make sure that the people, know that we're not saying that these are unsafe. We are not saying that these are unsafe. And that's as recent as January of this year. So I know there's a lot of different science out there, and that's why we need to kind of review science. And this study from the National Academy of Sciences is expected to be done in early 2022. So we're not talking about waiting so long. So we asked the legislator to wait until this study is completed about SB 132 or any other legislation regarding sunscreens. So there's more data on both environmental impacts and public health. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. And then we have Retail Merchants of Hawaii.
Aloha and good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to testify. We are in strong opposition of this measure. With the pandemic and everything, people have been home, and we're seeing more and more people outside, playing with their family, hiking, golfing, playing soccer, playing with their friends, jogging. And these are not water activities, but these people are also in use of sunscreen. Sunscreen is not just used for beach or other water activity purposes like others have mentioned. Many of us, including myself, have used sunscreen on a daily basis to protect from the effects of the sun. I'll admit it, I'm vain. I don't want a wrinkle. So, you use sunscreen on these type of things. And right now we feel like the other people have said too, this measure is too premature to ban these ingredients. I mean, there is no peer review evidence that these UV filters actually cause harm to the coral reefs. Yes, they did a study, but it has not been duplicated by their peers to show that it is proof. We also want to point out, like everyone else has said, that the EPA and the National Academy of Scientists are currently reviewing all of these different studies and also the conflicting information about these sunscreens. And we think we should wait for these findings to come out. We don't want to have bias samplings or anything. We want to be sure that, people are protected from sunscreens, but it's the right way and not from kind of cloudy information too. We also run the risk of people not wearing sunscreen if these things are banned, and increasing chances of skin cancer. I think it's something like if you get sunburned 5 times, your chance of skin cancer increases. And we all know how strong the sun is here in Hawaii, and we are all outside. And we have to keep making these things affordable. People are not going to take off half a day to make a doctor's appointment, go there, pay a copay, get a sunscreen prescription and have to pay for an expensive sunscreen. They're just not going to do that because a lot of times health insurance does not cover sunscreen. So we got to look at that too. So we're wondering why the legislature wants to take away consumer choice for something that EPA and the NAS and the FDA are still reviewing. So we hope that you hold this bill for now and you wait till the reviews come out. Mahalo.
And next we have Joe DiNardo, an individual in support.
Yes, thank you and aloha. Appreciate the opportunity to provide some testimony, and I stand on my written testimony, but I would like to reiterate that a lot of things have indeed been said that are confusing and are conflicting. But most of those things, if not all of those things, are coming from the people who are making an awful lot of money selling these sunscreens. What I would ask this group to please consider is independent groups like NOAA, who basically, you've seen the infographic, and shows and demonstrates that there are toxicities not only associated with coral, but also other reef life. The other groups I'd like you to pay attention to too, if you wouldn't mind, would be the World Health Organization, who said there is no conclusive proof, in fact, no proof at all, that sunscreens do anything to protect people from basal cell carcinoma or melanoma. And maybe on an unintentional level, they might have some benefit. But when people go out and directly stand into the sun and put on something with an SPF 100 or 110 or 75, that they are indeed increasing their risk of getting cancer. So that's the other side to the coin. The FDA also has in 2019 said they need more information. So as far as waiting goes, industry has waited over 2 years to provide any type of safety data, and it's questionable as if they will ever provide it. But the questions involved are carcinogenicity, which you just heard a testimony not too long ago about octocrylene breaking down into benzophenone, a known carcinogen, again, recognized by many organizations that are independent. So if you would, please consider the independent individuals that are all government agencies that are saying that these materials are not only just toxic to people, but to the environment, and also have little to no benefit whatsoever in preventing skin cancer. Mahalo. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And let's see. Then we also have testimony, let's see, in support from Hawaii County Council member Rebecca Villegas, in support from Kona Coast Waterkeepers, Dr. Richard Bennett, in support from 2 members of the Kahaluu Bay Education Center. We have testimony from Hawaii Skin Cancer Coalition in opposition, from Malama Pupukea Waimea in support, Center for Biological Diversity in support, Chamber of Commerce in opposition, Cyanotech Corporation in support, Down to Earth in support, Little Hands White in support, American Chemistry Council in opposition, Pacific Whale Foundation in support, Lonnie and Kai in support, Kuleana Reef Safe Sunscreen Company in support, and then we had testimony from 47 additional individuals, all in support. Was there anyone else here who wanted to testify on this measure in person?
Chair Lowen, if I might, I would like to weigh in. On behalf of Clean the Pacific, I am in support of this bill as well. I'm also an avid surfer, and I've been using the mineral-based sunscreen for several years now. And I can tell you, it is just as effective as any of the other petrochemical sunscreens that are being suggested for removal. It goes on and it's clear, it's easy to use, it doesn't form a greasy film on your skin, and there's no reason not to use this instead of the other sunscreens. And so, oh, and they're affordable. They're just as affordable as any other sunscreen. And of course, I buy it in bulk. But I would say that if you do have any questions about the research, between the for-profit science and the non-biased science, that why don't we ban these chemicals for now on the side of safety until there's indisputable, clear, incontrovertible evidence one way or another. Then if it shows out that in fact they are safe, then we can bring them back on the market if they need to, if they want to. But why should we risk our health, the reef's health, the planet's health, when we don't need to? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not members, questions?
Yes, I'm sorry. Chair Lowen, may I?
Oh yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Victoria Anderson, President of Beach Environmental Awareness Campaign, Hawaii. I would just like to add that in the case that there's conflicting science, we would do best to follow the precautionary principle and wait, and do not use the sunscreens while we wait for the science to come out. We need to hold off on using these petrochemicals on land and in water. Sunscreen is not the only way people can protect themselves. We can wear clothes, rash guards, hats, etc. So we've heard testimony in opposition that promotes consumer choice. Well, there are other kinds of consumer choice. If we want our keiki to have the choice to be able to enjoy the water, enjoy the natural environment, enjoy amazing coral reefs that are not dead, we need to be prudent and not just let things go until the damage is irreparable. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, members, any questions? I think I'll ask a quick question, maybe for Joe DiNardo, if you're still available. If you can just, I guess, explain to the committee, just for the record, your background as a scientist. And then I just had a question. There was a statement made by retail merchants, I believe, that there's no peer-reviewed evidence about the chemicals in these sunscreens effects on in human health or environmental health. Is that accurate?
No, that part is not accurate at all. In fact, that's what the NOAA infographic demonstrates clearly, that there is significant evidence showing that not only to coral, but to all of reef life and to all of ocean life is adversely affected. That we know for sure. And your first question was in efficacy?
Well, just to explain a little bit about your background as a scientist so that we understand where you're coming from.
Well, thank you. I started in the cosmetic industry back in 1976. One of my first projects was working on sunscreens, where I did acute toxicity testing on products and also did some other testing in relationship to what was prepared into the monograph. I've worked 18 years for Revlon Almay as a vice president of R&D. I've made many sunscreens, tested many sunscreens, and then went out on my own for about 20 years working for different groups large groups like Allergan and GlaxoSmithKline, to small independent dermatologists who wanted products made. So my background in this area, from formulation and regulatory, as well as toxicology, is pretty substantial in relationship to what's being done out there. And in the last 6 or 7 years, I've worked with Craig Downs on the environmental side of the aquatic toxicity issue.
Great, thank you. Members, any further questions?
Oh, Chair Lowen, I just wanted to answer your question.
To the next bill.
Thank you.
Chair Lowen, may I answer your question instead of having it
I'm sorry,
answered for
you know, we didn't ask a question of you, but we do have your written testimony.
Okay.
All right, next up we have Senate Bill 350. This is relating to the environment and the clean water branch. And first up to testify, we have Environmental Health Administration of Department of Health.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and the members. My name is Alec Wong, testify on behalf of the Department of Health. The Department of Health stands on its written testimony in opposition.
Thank you. And Legislative Reference Bureau with comments. Oh, sorry, I'm not looking at who signed up to testify in person. In-person testimony, we have Surfrider Kauai, Scott Gould. Are you present? Surfrider Oahu chapter, Caitlin Jacobs.
Hi, yes, I am Caitlin Jacobs representing Surfrider Oahu chapter. We stand on our written testimony and support, and I also just wanted to add a few comments that this bill is super important for redoing the tiering system, which is how it is currently, is biased towards the popular beaches and really excludes a lot of places where locals use the public beaches and are threatened by water quality pollution. And it also would just allow the Department of Health to do what it should be doing normally and test even during groundwater events, which is when the water is especially polluted. This is a huge initiative for water quality and pollution, so we stand in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the Kihei Community Association, Mike Moran.
Aloha, Chair. Whoops, let me get down here. Aloha, Chair. Mike Moran for the Kihei Community Association. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. We're only looking at one aspect of the bill. Our bylaws confine us to South Maui issues. And we had so a big part of our concern is when there is a brown water alert, our community doesn't know, particularly our visitors are unaware. And I would like to offer just one anecdotal point that yesterday we received a phone call from a grandfather from San Diego who was using one of our beaches with his 9-year-old son. And someone came up to him and told him that the water was dangerous. And he said, how would you know that? And whoever this person was, she suggested that they call the Kihei Community Association. We're a group of volunteers. We're not always at the phone, but I was able to react to him in about 20 minutes, which was just luck. Sometimes it's a day. And when I explained the situation to him, he said, but there's no signs. How could I possibly know? And he said, if that person didn't tell me, that's my 9-year-old grandchild going in there. And I told him the situation. He said, well, how do people find out about it? And I said, well, it's on our website, but of course you wouldn't know about the Kihei Community Association. And he said, what about the government? I said, well, it's on, I said, DOHCWB. And he said, what in the world is that? So then I slowed down and explained what the Clean Water Branch, and he said, well, everybody would think, a visitor would no way look at that. You would think if there's something wrong with the water quality, there's going to be a sign. And I said, well, we agree with you when I mentioned that this bill was coming up this morning on it. So I thought that would give some perspective to that one aspect of the of this bill that where we do have all the visitors here, and this is not the local beaches, these are the visitors' beaches, but there's local people like me too. I've been swimming in that ocean for 20 years, but I have the ability to go look at the Department of Health alerts, and in fact, I do sign up for it, so I get the alert when it happens. But for people that don't, we're one little tiny volunteer voice that's trying to alert our community. We're no way reaching the majority of residents here, and of course, we're probably not reaching 1/10 of 1% of the visitors. And he closed by saying, we were going to come here. My grandson was supposed to come last year, and we had to explain it to him. Now he's here. And I said, I get it, and I'm not telling you can't go in the water. It's not like it's absolute poison, but you should be made aware, and we do believe there should be signage there. So thank you very much, Chair Lowen, for the opportunity to express our opinion.
Thank you. And that's everyone we have signed up to submit testimony in person.
Chair Lowen, this is Scott Gould. I think you skipped me.
We did call your name. Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Chair Lowen. Honorable committee members, Honorable Chair Lowen, Honorable Chair Vice Chair Martin. I just wanted to take a moment to thank Senators Mike Gabbard, Stanley Chang, Kurt Favela, and Chris Lee for introducing this measure. This is critically important. As a member of Surfrider Kauai, we stand for this, and I no need to express any more, but wanted to stand on our written testimony. Just thank you for hosting this committee meeting today. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. We also have testimony in support from Windward Coalition, Hawaii Wildlife Fund, Surfrider Maui, Friends of Hanauma Bay, Center for Biological Diversity, Surfrider Oahu, and then 33 individuals all in support. Was there anyone else here who wanted to testify on this measure? All right, if not, members' questions? All right, I have some questions for Department of Health. So what is it basically just the website? So when it's heavily raining, you issue like a blanket brown water advisory. Is that how it works? And then that's just information that's available on your website, but someone would have to go look for it? Or how does much of a blanket issuance is that brown water advisory, and then how are people supposed to find out about it?
People can sign up to receive our email advisories. The news media and a lot of local organizations subscribe to receive our email. They can do so on our website. We have a subscribe link.
And you don't have any kind of chain of for communications where you maybe work with HTA to get the word out, or make sure that there's like a press release issued that the word goes out across the state when there is a brown water advisory. People are just supposed to know. I mean, in contrast, when you have a more site-specific event, like a specific runoff event that affects one beach, you would post signage for that.
Yeah, we don't, on our email advisories, it's picked up by the local media organizations. So on the news, a lot of times you'll hear groundwater advisories for specific area. In this case, we have 3 islands that are all under groundwater advisories and half of the Big Island. So generally people pick it up from either our email advisories that are sent out from the news, either on television or on newspaper. We have people sending it through social media and things like that. That's the primary way of
But all the steps Department of Health takes is to update their website and see who finds out.
Excuse me? Can you repeat that?
But Department of Health doesn't have, besides posting on your website and allowing people to sign up for email notifications, Department of Health doesn't make any additional efforts to notify people, especially in an event where it's raining everywhere and there's just groundwater advisories for large areas. Like you're more proactive, it seems like, when there's a smaller event than when there's a larger event.
Yes, a lot of times when we have large events like what we've been having in the past few weeks, it's very obvious that the water is brown and people should stay out. But a lot of times in the smaller areas, the site-specific areas, it's not as obvious. So we kind of try to push those advisories too. But the island-wides are issued.
And so what do you think you could do to improve the communication side of things? Because I think there are concerns, like especially for visitors, how would they know they're not going to be signed up on the Hawaii State Department of Health email notification list for advisories?
Press release and also with the lifeguard.
One of the things that we could do, or one of the things that we are working on right now is we're working with the lifeguards. So we inform them, that whenever there's brown water, they should take precautions. Another thing that we could do that we aren't doing right now is we could work with our communications office to issue press releases.
Okay. And then the second question I have is, it sounds like also partly due to staffing issues and partly due to potentially hazardous conditions that during groundwater advisories, Clean Water Branch ceases the regular scheduled water quality testing at Tier 1 beaches. Is that correct?
Yes, we have historic data over 22 years showing that whenever we get rainfall, whenever there's surface water runoff into the ocean, we get elevated levels of indicator bacteria that exceed the threshold. So we have that data. And so when we issue groundwater advisories, those are more as a proactive warning, and advisory.
Okay, members, further questions? Rep. Martin.
I also, for the Department of Health, as a follow-up, can you just clarify, now you're taking samples once a week, is that it? And you pause during groundwater advisory? How would this bill change the workload in terms of taking samples? What would this have you do instead that's different?
Okay, right now we're required to monitor Tier 1 beaches weekly. We have currently, in effect, we have 58 beaches under a groundwater advisory statewide. We have one person on Kauai, we have one person on Maui, we have 2 people on Oahu, and 1 person in Hilo and 1 person in Kona. Okay, on any given day, we collect between 6 to 10 Tier 1 samples. One of the limitations would be laboratory capacity. The samples have an 8-hour hold time, and it takes between, some places up to 6 hours to collect the samples. The laboratory now has to analyze all of those samples that we have. Majority of the labs that we have, especially the neighbor island labs, are staffed by 2 people. In addition to doing water quality testing, the neighbor island labs also have other duties that they need to attend to, such as right now, prepping and shipping COVID samples. So it's gonna add a significant amount of work if we needed to collect samples and post signs on Tier 1 beaches.
Any further questions, members? Okay, if not, we'll move on to Senate Bill 180 relating to deposit beverage containers. First up, we have Department of Health with comments.
Good morning, Chair Lowen, Vice Chair Martin. My name is Michael Burke. I'm with Lene Ichino-Tsubo from the Department of Health. We stand on our written testimony, offering comments on SB 180. Thank you, and we're here for any questions.
Thank you. And next we have Reynolds Recycling. Bruce Iverson. Are you present? All right, we'll move on to Tax Foundation of Hawaii, Tom Yamachika.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. We are primarily concerned about the legislative audits. There have been 3 that have been done on the Deposit Beverage Container Fund. They've all encountered problems. Not much has been done about those problems, as we can see. I think that the problems ought to be fixed before throwing more money at this enterprise. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And then, sorry, next we have Hawaii Food Industry Association, Lauren Zerbel.
Thank you, Chair Lowen and committee members. Lauren Zerbel on behalf of Hawaii Food Industry Association. I'll stand on our written testimony, and we do strongly agree with what Tom just stated about there's multiple alarming audits that have been done and the underlying issues have not been addressed, and we feel that that would be important to do before we increase fees even further. I did want to further comment a little bit though on the change from 2 miles to 1 mile. Currently, it is difficult to meet the 2 mile restriction, and so we would strongly oppose the changing of that to a 1 mile restriction. And we think it's really important for you guys to keep in mind that a lot of these retailers, the vast majority, they do not own the property in which they operate. So the landlords are actually the ones that make these really strict basically requests and requirements about what's allowed to be done on their property. And in many cases, they actually do not allow the collection of these types of items for sanitation reasons, and because it is not something that's desirable in the location which they are renting to other businesses. So it would be a big problem for us if that section were to change. So we do strongly oppose this bill, and we ask for it to be held for those reasons. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. And then we have the American Beverage Association.
Thank you, Chair. Matt Sujimura on behalf of the American Beverage Association. We'll stand on our written testimony in opposition.
Thank you. That is everyone we have signed up to testify. Members, any questions? I have some questions for Department of Health, if you're still there, Michael.
Yes,
First of all, I think one of the suggestions in some of the audits were that the department should do ongoing risk-based audits of the distributors and redemption centers. So is that something that you would support codifying?
Yes, in fact, I believe Senator Gabbard this year actually introduced a bill to codify the audit report findings. It was something that was also introduced last year. Since I've started with the program, we've been working hard at addressing the auditor's report. I know that historically, obviously there's been challenges with the program, and there's a lot of work that we need to do. And so my goal is to address those findings so that we can have confidence in the program, and that that there's that we don't have these issues that have been identified in the past.
Okay, and you would be able to use funds from the DBC Special Fund to do the risk-based auditing?
Yes, ma'am, we would.
Okay, and then as far as the requirement or the part of this bill that talks about changing the radius from 2 miles to 1 mile, what's your guys' position on that part of the bill?
I think one of the challenges, as the Food Industry Association pointed out, is that there are most of the retailers are tenants, and so that is a challenge. However, we'll have to work with how we address our exemptions, and at the end of the day, as the law was written, if you're going to elect to sell a deposit beverage container, then you have to also be willing to take that container back. And so I think that there's, we'll need to work with the industry, we'll need to work with retailers to ensure that there's a way to equitably address the issue. And at the same time, if the exemption is reduced from 2 miles to 1 mile, that we'll need to work on how we increase the implementation and increase the availability of redemption centers, or at a minimum locations where deposit beverage containers can be redeemed.
Do we have a picture already, like if that radius was changed? I mean, it's in dense or urban areas. I'm not sure exactly how that's defined, and we know where existing redemption centers are already. So where are the pukas that this new requirement would affect?
We did take a look at this last year because this bill was introduced last year. That's something that we'd be happy to put together and send to you, a map sort of demonstrating graphically where there are pukas. And the fact that it is limited to urban as a delineator largely means that this is for Oahu, it's Oahu centric.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I'd like to see that because I think it'd be good to have more places where people can do redemption, but maybe we can address the issue a little more surgically instead of this blanket expansion.
Sure, that's not a problem.
All right, thanks, members. Any other questions? All right. Then we will move on to the next measure on our agenda, Senate Bill 304. This is relating to carbon offsets. First up, we have Office of Planning with comments.
Aloha, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Danielle Bass. I'm the State of Hawaii Sustainability Coordinator, representing Office of Planning's testimony here today. We provide comments on Senate Bill 304, and just wanted to highlight a few things that, at the request of the legislature and in accordance with Act 16, Session Laws 2018, we investigated and recently published the feasibility and implications of establishing a carbon offset program for the state of Hawaii. That document was published in December 2019. Through that feasibility analysis, we found that it is unlikely for the state of Hawaii to generate significant revenue through the production of offsets, and any trading of offset credits produced within Hawaii would be limited by the state's zero emissions clean economy target. The publication instead recommended the adoption of alternative fuels in transportation, inclusive of sustainable aviation fuels, so that we can meet our zero emissions clean economy target goals. We note that there is significant international climate action, which is influencing markets and corporations to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, including Boeing's recent commitment to transition all of its commercial aircraft to be 100% sustainable aviation fuel by the year 2030, only 9 years away. We also recognize that the state of Hawaii has established a strong foundation in greenhouse gas reduction policies through various statutory targets, inclusive of a 100% renewable portfolio standard, as well as the commitment of a zero emissions clean economy target, both to be achieved by the year 2045. So instead of implementing a carbon offset program, we recommend the state of Hawaii should build on this existing greenhouse gas reduction policies and programs to develop the most economically viable mechanisms to facilitate reaching the zero emissions clean economy target by 2045. Mahalo for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you. And that's everyone we have signed up to submit testimony in person. We also have testimony and support from Blue Planet Foundation, in support from one individual, and opposition from 2 individuals, and opposition from 350 Hawaii. Is there anyone else here to testify on this measure? If not, members, any questions? All right, if not, we'll move on to Senate Bill 755 relating to transportation. First up, we have DLNR. Heather McMillan. In support, we have Avis Budget Group, Lori Lum.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Lori Lum on behalf of Avis Budget. We are in opposition to this bill. Hawaii has one of the highest rental car surcharge amounts in the country. So there may not be enough consumer interest to make such a contribution. So perhaps there should be a study first to determine interest before mandating this additional administrative burden and costs on an industry that is struggling to survive. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. And then Enterprise Holdings, Mihoko Ito.
Thank you, Chair. I guess Matt Sujimura on behalf of Mihoko Ito, on behalf of Enterprise Holdings. Enterprise stands in opposition to SB 755 for similar reasons to the testifier before us. I would just point out that Enterprise currently does partner with, I believe it's an organization called TerraPass, for any prospective consumers who rent a car through Enterprise to be able to purchase carbon emission offset, or to be able to contribute to those national programs. And so, this would kind of be a duplication of that effort. So for those reasons, we stand in opposition.
Thank you. And that is everyone we have signed up to submit testimony. Is there anyone else?
I'm here representing DLNR. This is Heather McMillan, Urban and Community Forester. Sorry, I had trouble turning my video on when you called us. Irene Sprecher, who submitted the testimony, was not able to attend today, so I am here on behalf of the department, and just reiterating that we stand on our written testimony and here to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that is everyone we have signed up. Is there anyone else here to testify? If not, members, any questions? All right, if not, we'll move on to Senate Bill 756 relating to electric vehicles. First up, we have City and County of Honolulu, Office of Climate Change, Sustainability and Resiliency. Not present in person in support. City Department of Design and Construction with comments. Henry Curtis, Life of the Land. In support. We Are One in support. We have Blue Planet Foundation, Melissa Miyashiro.
Aloha, Chair Lowen, Vice Chair Martin, and committee members. I'm Melissa Miyashiro, Managing Director at Blue Planet Foundation. Blue Planet supports SB 756. This bill helps address one of the major challenges that we face with transitioning to clean transportation, and that's expanding our public charging options for those that currently don't have access to EV charging at home or at work. By clarifying that the counties have the authority to enforce the existing law and that the chargers must be reasonably maintained, this bill can boost the effectiveness of the current law. This isn't a new requirement. The existing law that requires at least one EV charger in publicly accessible parking lots with 100 or more stalls has been on the books for more than a decade, since actually 2009. And unfortunately, we haven't seen the build out of EV infrastructure that the legislature envisioned way back then. So we think that this is an important measure to update the law and prepare Hawaii for the coming transition to electric transportation. And just a quick note about some common misconceptions. Nothing in the bill requires that landowners or retailers offer charging for free, and it doesn't require that the parking stalls be in a prime location. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. And next we have Tesla, Sandy Wong.
I'm here, Chair Lowen, sorry. Good morning, Chair Lowen and members of the committee. My name is Sandy Wong. I am testifying on behalf of Tesla. We are in support of this bill. We submitted written testimony, so we will stand on it. I would just add that we are especially supportive of the provision that increases the requirement by 5 by 2025 and the requirement to 10 by 2030. And we would echo the testimony of Blue Planet, and I am available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Ulupono Initiative, Micah Munakata.
Good morning, Chair Lowen, Vice Chair Martin, members of the committee. Micah Munikata here on behalf of the Ulupono Initiative. We'll stand on our written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have Hawaiian Electric in support. Looks like they are not present. And then Retail Merchants of Hawaii.
Aloha and good morning again. My name is Tina Yamaki. I'm with the Retail Merchants of Hawaii. We are very much opposed to this bill. It is our understanding that EV still makes up only 1% of the cars on Hawaii's roadway, and that a majority of the ownership is in the urban areas. Automobile manufacturers like luxury cars like Jaguar, Audi, BMW, Mercedes-Benz have joined Tesla in launching high-profile electric cars. And let's face it, the vast majority of EV cars sold in Hawaii are Teslas, bar none. This bill would actually make 10% of the parking reserved for 1% of the EV cars that are driven in Hawaii. This bill also does not consider that ADA parking requirements are also needed for car and van accessibility. So for every 100 stalls, we have to provide, I believe it's 4 ADA stalls and 1 accessible van stall. And van stalls take up 2 parkings. And we also have to note that EVs cannot be part of the ADA stalls because not all ADA cars are EV type of cars. Shopping malls and retailers in the urban area are finding out that the EV charging stations are not being used very often. And it's usually by the residents who don't want to have their electricity bill increase. So they come to us to do that. We offer free parking and free EV charging because it's a courtesy to our customers. New technology is constantly being done, and these electric vehicles can travel farther and farther right now, and we are not in the business of refueling and recharging. We're finding out that it's the residents who come in, they charge their cars, they don't leave, they come in after mall hours. They're the ones who come in, and if I cannot plug in my car, then you can't either. So I'm going to break that EV charger so none of us can use it. And we're constantly finding that out. We've had fist fights in our parking lots because of people trying to get to the EV stalls. These are things that shopping malls shouldn't have to deal with. We're here to provide services, but not for the whole community as a charging station. What we would like to see is maybe this committee start to look at other cottage industries and actually look at maybe encouraging, standalone stations or closer stations like they do have on the mainland as well. So I'm available for comments.
All right, thank you. That is everyone we have signed up to submit testimony in person. We also have.
Aloha, Chair Lowen. This is June Shi with Hawaiian Electric. Can you hear me okay? Sorry, my video wasn't working earlier.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you. Good morning, committee members. Hawaiian Electric stands on some written testimony and support. And I just wanted to add, as we briefly mentioned in our testimony, we currently have the Charge Ready Hawaii pilot program that's proposed with the commission. The pilot program is looking to assist roughly 30 commercial sites with EV infrastructure installs. And it would do that by providing the make-ready infrastructure for 5 charging stations per site. So the program, if approved, also will run until 2024, aligning it really well with the first target set in this bill that requires 5 chargers by January 2025. So just wanted to add that information. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. And then we also have testimony and support from our Revolution Hawaii, from Hawaii Climate Action Coalition, 350 Hawaii, Climate Protectors Hawaii, Hawaii EV Association, Big Island EV Association, Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party, Clean the Pacific, and 27 individuals also in support. Is there anyone else here to testify on this measure?
Yes, this is Chris Junker from the Hawaii State Energy Office. We stand on our written testimony and support and are available for questions if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. That's it for testifiers. Members, any questions? All right. If not, I just have a few quick questions. First question for retail merchants. Just if you can quickly clarify, I think you both said that you hear that nobody wants to use the EV chargers, but also that people have fist fights over who gets to use the EV chargers. So which is it?
So what we're seeing is
fight over who gets to use them or not use them at all.
So what we're seeing is in the urban areas like Honolulu and things like that, there's a big use or need want for EV chargers because a lot of these surrounding apartment buildings don't have that service. or we're finding out that college students don't want.
Just a quick answer to the question, though, please.
Yeah, so
Finding
it's
that people want to use them in urban areas.
in urban areas, but in the non-urban areas like Wahiwa, Laie, they're not being used. I mean, a few residents will come in and use them, but they're not being used.
Okay, well, we'd have to pull data to see if that's accurate or not. But I wonder if how many parking lots. I mean, there's probably a lot fewer parking lots over 100 spaces in non-urban areas. So thank you. And next question for I don't know, either Blue Planet Foundation or Chris from Hawaii State Energy Office. What is the current percent? Are we still at 1% or have we gone over 1%? And what has been the increase over the past year or so in adoption of EVs in the state of Hawaii?
Hi, Chair Lowen. I'm happy to chime in on that. And Chris, please chime in also, since this information comes from the State Energy Office. But EVs are the fastest growing segment of new cars in Hawaii. So over the past year, we've seen an increase of 23.5% of registered electric vehicles. And that's, over the past year during a pandemic. And we've actually seen a decrease in registered gasoline vehicles. So that's dipped to 3.5% over the last few years.
Yes, we've jumped from around 11,000 EVs to around 13,000 EVs at this point in time over the last year.
Great, thank you. And then for again, Chris, probably I'll just ask you this question. There was a statement made about free charging, and just to clarify, since I know you're familiar with the law, there was a statement made by retail merchants about the free charging being taken advantage of. Does this law in any way, shape, or form require that the charging be free, or is it just simply that there be a charging station available, which can be people can charge for?
It's just that the charging be available. There's no requirement that the charging be provided for free.
Great, thank you. That's all I have. Members, any other questions? All right, then if not, we'll move on to the last bill on the agenda, Senate Bill 243, relating to renewable energy. And first up, we have Rick Rocheleau from HNEI.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. HNEI has made comments and we stand on our testimony, but I will be happy to answer any questions you may have at the end. Thank you.
Thank you. And Hawaii State Energy Office.
Chair Lowen, Vice Chair Martin, members of the committee, Maria Tomei, Hawaii State Energy Office. You have our written comments in support with amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have Hawaiian Electric, Mark Asano, with testimony and support. Okay, we will. We also have written testimony submitted from Life of the Land with comments from Ulupono Initiative in support, Climate Protectors Hawaii in support, LERF in support, and 3 individuals in support. Was there anyone else here to testify on this measure? If not, members, any questions? Rep. Martin.
This is a question for the I guess HSCO and the Hawaii Natural Energy Institute. It seems like some of the testimony was asking why the Hawaii State Energy Office was not part of this. And I'm just wondering how you folks think they could be worked into this. Thank you.
Well, hi, Maria Tomei with the Hawaii State Energy Office. If the Hawaii State Energy Office was named to be doing the strategy in the bill, of course, working with HNEI, since we do have funding issues, but we both have a very strong interest in making sure that we have plans and we have the same objective for energy in the energy area. So if HNEI is named along with HSEO in the appropriate roles, that would work very well, because the State Energy Office has the broader strategy responsibility for not just the electricity sector, but also the transportation sector and the global warming, the Act 225P, excuse me. And so that the broader strategy could be developed, whereas an HNEI can speak for themselves, but they are already tasked with looking at the renewable portfolio standards, which is just the electricity sector, every 5 years.
Any further questions or no follow-up? Okay, then we will recess for decision making. All right, reconvening House Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection for decision-making, starting with Senate Bill 348 relating to bottled water. We want to move this forward as is. Members, any discussion? If not, Vice Chair.
Chair recommends passing SB 348 as is. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Rep Hashem? Rep Matsuyoshi is excused. Rep Peruso? Rep Todd? Rep Tokioka? Rep Matsumoto? Bill pass is adopted as recommended.
Thank you. And for Senate Bill 1054, we also want to move this forward as is. Members, any discussion? If not, Vice Chair.
Chair recommends passing SB 1054 as is. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Seeing all members present except Rep Matsuyoshi excused for the duration of this hearing. Any noes? Any reservations? Hearing none, bill passes.
And then Senate Bill 502. So for this, we are going to take some of the suggested amendments from Attorney General to delete the self-executing provision and then add the as provided by general law phrase to the ballot question. We'll defect the effective date to July 1st, 2050 and move this forward for further discussion. Members, any discussion? All right, if not, Vice Chair.
So Chair recommends SB 502 be passed with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Any noes or reservations? Chair, your measure passes.
Thank you. And for Senate Bill 347, we're going to just defect the date to July 1st, 2050 and move this forward for further discussion. Members, any discussion on this? If not, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Chair recommends passing SB 347 with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Any noes or reservations? Hearing none, bill is adopted. Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. And for Senate Bill 132 relating to water pollution, we're also going to defect the date to July 1st, 2050, move this forward for further discussion. Members, any discussion? If not, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Chair recommends passing SB 132 with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Noting all members present except for Rep Matsuyoshi excused. Any noes or reservations? Hearing none, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. And next, Senate Bill 350 relating to the environment. This is the water quality testing bill. So for this, we're going to delete the requirement to fill the position, which actually has been filled, and the provision for the advisory board, and then all of section 2, which is the LRB study. For the remaining points in there for subsection 2, instead of making a requirement they adhere to the regularly scheduled beach sampling schedule, we're going to replace that with as practicable because they do have staffing issues that would require additional funding. And then I think we're going to add something in, and I've got to figure out the exact language, but something in about, make reasonable efforts to do a better job communicating the brown water advisories are in effect. Members, any comments? Rep Todd?
I just want to thank you for scheduling it and for keeping this going. You know, I know that over the past few years we've talked specifically about some of the East Hawaii issues because it rains all the time, and there was a moment, I think after Hurricane Lane or something like that, where there was actually a huge sewage release into Hilo Bay. And the county said that because there was a brown water advisory, they did not need to put any signs up because there was already a brown water advisory. Meanwhile, everyone's swimming and paddling canoe and surfing. So there's a huge disconnect there. And I think some of the department's comments today did not reflect reality. People are not checking an app or the website on a daily basis. They're completely unaware. So just want to thank you.
Thank you for that. Members, anything further? If not, please take the vote.
Chair recommends passing SB 350 with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Any noes or reservations? Hearing none, your recommendation is adopted, Chair.
Thank you. And for Senate Bill 180, this is related to deposit beverage containers. For this, we're going to make some changes. So we're, essentially going to replace the contents with the language, you're codifying some of the requirements of the audits, which is requiring ongoing risk-based audits of distributors and redemption centers. There was language introduced in a bill last year and then this year in Senate Bill 349 that we're going to put in there. And then, I think there is a need to look at the best way to make sure there's more redemption centers, and we want to continue talking about that. But at this time, I'm not sure that just increasing the radius is the best way to go about it, or if we need further discussion to figure out what the best approach is for that. So we're going to take that out also at this time, and then we'll defect the date to July 1st, 2050, and make some technical amendments as well. Members, any discussion? If not, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Chair recommends passing SB 180 with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Any noes or reservations? Hearing none, your recommendation is adopted, Chair.
Thank you. And for Senate Bill 304, this is carbon offsets for air travel. We definitely understand that carbon offsets don't replace any need for decarbonization. But they're also just a piece of the puzzle. This already has a defective date, so we're going to pass this as is and move it forward for further discussion. Members, any discussion? All right, if not, Vice Chair.
Chair recommends passing SB 304 as is. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Any noes or reservations? Hearing none, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Senate Bill 755 relating to transportation. This is the voluntary option when renting a rental car for the customers to check off and make a voluntary donation. We want to move this forward for further discussion. We do hear concerns of the rental car companies, but given that this is voluntary, I think we can, keep considering it for the time being. We're going to defect the date to July 1st, 2050. And that's it. Members, any discussion? If not,
I do. Thank you, Chair. And I understand it is a volunteer program. During this whole pandemic on Kauai, it was amazing how many rental cars were all over the parking lots at vacant malls and the stadium. And many of the car rental company employees that were laid off have been in touch with me, and I'm sure others from Kauai asking for help. So I do know this is voluntary. I know that their lobbyists are testifying in opposition. So for that reason, Chair, at this point, I'm going to vote no for the principle. And I do know it's a voluntary program, but thank you for that opportunity to give my comments.
thank you. Any further comments? All right, if not, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Chair recommends passing SB 755 with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye, noting Representative Tokioka votes no. Any other noes or reservations? Your recommendation is adopted, Chair.
Thank you. For Senate Bill 756, we are going to make a few changes to this. So we're going to leave in the provision for 5 spaces by 2025. It's somewhat similar to what we passed out of the House earlier. We're going to take out the provision for 10 spaces. We can come back to this later and see how 5 went if we're successful in passing that, but we can leave out the 10 for now. And we don't need a blank date on the requirement for the new installation of charging stations to be level 2 and network capable. So we'll just change that back to matching the language for what we passed out in House Bill 803. We will note there was testimony about potentially needing to look at exemptions for flood zones that could be offset by charging station in other areas, but there was no one available in person to ask questions. So we will maybe make a note of that in the committee report that we're going to follow up on the possible need for exemptions in flood zones, but we won't be adding language to the bill at this time. And then we're also going to add a part 2 to this bill that relates to providing a sustainable source of funding for the EV charging station rebate program. So what we're going to do here is look at the current barrel tax allocations, and we'll take we're going to allocate 3 cents towards the PUC special fund subaccount that was already outlined in House Bill 1142 that we passed out earlier. So it'll be 3 cents of barrel tax, and we're going to get that 3 cents by reducing HNEI's amount from 10 cents to 8 cents, and the amount that goes to the Energy Security Special Fund from 5 cents to 4 cents. So there's no additional shift of barrel tax away from general fund. We're just doing a reallocation. And then in addition, we're going to do a one-time appropriation for fiscal year 22 of 300,000 out of the balance that's sitting in the Energy Security Special Fund to the PUC Special Fund for the purpose of funding the EV charging station rebate program, because it's been a successful program. They're already out of funds, and this would provide them an immediate appropriation to move forward as the new barrel tax allocations would start being coming in after that gets implemented. And then we'll defect the date to July 1st, 2050 for further discussion and move this forward. Members, any questions? All right, if not, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Chair recommends passing SB 756 with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Any noes or reservations? Hearing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. And then finally, we have Senate Bill 243 relating to renewable energy. We are going to make some amendments to this, I think based on testimony both from HNEI and HSEO. And I think they talked about it prior as well, but we will turn this into a study that looks more broadly at the Hawaii zero emissions clean economy target and how that can be achieved, and what will be our strategies for decarbonization. And we will have HSEO be brought in on this, so HSEO and HNEI can work together. And then we also have some provisions for HNEI to separately look at a cost-benefit analysis of the renewable energy transition, just to give us a better picture of what are the savings to ratepayers that we've realized already or that we expect to realize in the future because of this transition. And the date is already defective, so we will make those changes and move this forward. Members, any discussion? All right, if not, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Chair recommends passing SB 243 with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Any noes or reservations? Hearing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, and we are adjourned. All right, we are back and we're convening the joint committees on energy and environmental protection and agriculture. We have one bill on this agenda today, Senate Bill 493, relating to agriculture. This establishes the Hawaii Agriculture and Forest Carbon Positive Incentive Program. And first up to testify, we have Department of Taxation.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members. Excuse me. Josh Michaels on behalf of the Director of Tax. We'll stand on our testimony offering comments.
Thank you. And then we have Hawaii Department of Agriculture with comments. Is that Morris Atta? There you are.
Good morning, Chairs Lowen and Hashem. The department will stand on its testimony expressing some concerns about the implementation of this measure. We think it's the notion of that such a program is very positive and it'll move us forward, but we're concerned about our lack of expertise in the area for support, providing the calculations and recommendations in the implementation phase of this. Thank you.
Thank you. And then DLNR, Dave Smith.
Yeah, good morning, Chair. David Smith. I'm with the Division of Forestry and Wildlife, and we will stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority, Gwen Yamamoto Lau.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Gwen Yamamoto Lau, Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority. We stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. And Office of Planning, Danielle Bass.
Good morning, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. My name is Danielle Bass, State Sustainability Coordinator, representing the Office of Planning's testimony here today with comments on SB 493. The Office of Planning provides administrative staff support to the Greenhouse Gas Sequestration Task Force. We find this initiative and proposed program to have similar intentions to the existing task force attached to the Office of Planning. We do serve as a centralized state agency with legislative mandated roles in climate change, sustainability, and land use issues. The Office of Planning recommends amendments to add the Office of Planning to page 5, page 6, and page 7 with the lines appropriately identified in our written testimony. We believe that by adding the Office of Planning to these sections of the proposed program, OP can provide more effectively provide the proposed program with information received from the Greenhouse Gas Sequestration Task Force on carbon positive activities. Mahalo for this opportunity to testify, providing comments on this measure.
Thank you. And then we have Tax Foundation of Hawaii, Tom Yamachika.
Thank you, Chair and members. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We'll stand on our written testimony. We just wanted to emphasize that we have concerns about the special fund being proposed in this bill. The State Auditor's Report number 21-04 said it flunked the criteria, so we would recommend deletion of the special fund. We'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That's everyone we have signed up to submit testimony in person. We also had comments from Department of Budget and Finance, support from Life of the Land, Climate Protectors Hawaii, Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party, and Hawaiian Cattlemen's Council. And then we also had 6 individuals in support and 1 in opposition. Was there anyone else here wanting to testify on this measure? All right, if not, members, questions? Brett Martin.
I have a question for the Office of Planning. First of all, I appreciate that you folks are so eager to get involved as opposed to avoiding more responsibilities. But I'm concerned with the Department of Agriculture's lack of familiarity with these issues, which is certainly not a reason not to move forward and do new things. But is that something that you folks can help them come up to speed on?
Thank you, Vice Chair Martin, for that question. Since the Office of Planning is administratively supporting the Greenhouse Gas Sequestration Task Force, which has very similar goals, the Department of Agriculture as well as the DLNR serve as members on that Greenhouse Gas Sequestration Task Force, and we have healthy relationships collaborating with both departments. We look forward to working with the Department of Agriculture, the DLNR, as well as the HGIA as this measure advances.
Any further questions, members? All right, I have a few questions. I guess Department of Agriculture and HGIA, this is the proposal we haven't had on the House side this session, so it's all new subject matter for us. I'm a little bit unclear on exactly how this would work, how HGIA got involved. I assume because it would be like an issuance of loans, and that's something that you already do. But I guess what I'm not clear about is who would approve the projects, who would like certify that they are achieving the carbon sequestration goals, and how would that be enforced? I mean, as far as I know, HGIA doesn't have any expertise in that. And then we're hearing from Department of Ag that they're not sure they have the expertise. So, I mean, it's an interesting idea to use some barrel tax to give loans to local producers, or people who are doing regenerative farming, but I'm just not clear on exactly if this will accomplish those goals. So what do you guys think?
Can I speak to that? That's really kind of the core of our concern, is that, the concept is great. We're not sure of the actual logistics of how it's going to work and how it's going to be enforced. And that was basically the concerns that are being expressed in our testimony. We appreciate OP's willingness to support us, and we do work closely with them, so that's great. We just believe that there's going to be a learning curve to get us up to speed to implement the program. We're not objecting to what the program is trying to do. We're just concerned about how it's actually going to work and how it's going to be enforced. Precisely the questions that you just raised, and that's our questions as well.
And if I could speak to that, Chair, I would say one thing, we've learned many things from COVID, but one of the things that we've learned from this COVID pandemic is we need to work collaboratively together and leverage the strengths of all different departments instead of everyone trying to do things on their own. And so HGIA clearly is not an ag expert nor a carbon greenhouse gas expert. However, we are proficient in the financial purposes and expending funds. This is not a loan program, it's a rebate program. And so what we would do is, based on the technical expertise provided by DLNR and OP and Department of Ag, to create what the metrics or the measurements around the rebate program would be, we would fund the rebates that way. But again, as Morris had pointed out, it's a learning curve for all of us. We need to push forward to learn together into achieving the climate goals that we have. Thank you.
And I guess OP, do you want to comment? I mean, what kind of expertise would OP have? I mean, none that I know of to like get into the nitty gritty details of regenerative farming and how you would like certify a project that they qualified for the rebate and how you would confirm that they had accomplished the goals.
Thank you, Chair Lowen, for that question. I would also echo Gwen at HGIA. This is a learning curve, and the state is actually learning quite rapidly in terms of carbon positive programs, greenhouse gas sequestration, and just incentivizing carbon reduction. We're learning that while administering the greenhouse gas sequestration task force. Unfortunately, OP has had some financial troubles in terms of administering that task force and staffing issues. However, with the addition of our AmeriCorps member, we have increased our staff support to resurrect and restart that greenhouse gas sequestration task force. I want to mention that there is a report due to the legislature from that task force, which OP will be highly involved in, to provide findings to the legislature in terms of carbon positive opportunities, greenhouse gas sequestration in our agricultural working lands, as well as as forestry and other opportunities to increase soil health for the state. That report is due to the legislature 20 days before the 2023 legislative session. So we have begun that endeavor with our Greenhouse Gas Sequestration Task Force, and we'll be beginning the drafting process to fulfill that reporting requirement.
Okay. And then I guess DLNR maybe. Would there be any opportunity, you know, Heather, are there like soil and water conservation districts that look at some of the soil health issues? Do you think there would be any kind of role for them? I'm just kind of trying to think who would identify projects or be able to recommend them as appropriate projects for this rebate.
Yeah, the conservation district, NRCS generally, conservation districts may be interested in getting involved with this sort of thing. You know, improved agricultural practices, improved forest management practices can all add to carbon sequestration. And so, like Morris is saying, you know, maybe ag hasn't been as involved in some of the carbon sequestration, but I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Soil does sequester a lot of carbon, and although you know, forests may be better, improved practices can improve soil carbon sequestration. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. We can work with agriculture on it. I'm not trying to talk agriculture into anything, but I just think there's some opportunities there with soil.
Okay, great. And then I guess final question, Department of Ag. I mean, what kind of dollar amount would you attach to this?
That's kind of a difficult question to address because we're not sure what we need, because we definitely lack any kind of regulatory infrastructure for certifying and reviewing at this point. And basically, it's through this learning process that with DLNR and OP and all the various players in the task force, we would probably come up with that. I honestly can't give you a number because I'm not sure what we're looking at in terms of how expansive our role is going to be. I anticipate that this is going to be a collaborative effort, as everyone that's been speaking have been sort of in agreement on. So I don't really know. I don't have a number for you that I can give you, because I'm not sure what is really entailed specifically.
Even if there was, I mean, even for like one project, and maybe Dave Smith, maybe DLNR has some idea. I mean, even if you just distributed funds that were available on a first come basis, or to the best applicants, like what would be kind of a minimal amount of a rebate to even make it worthwhile? Or there would probably be some farms out there that are already doing this that might be able to apply.
Yeah,
that would
I guess this I guess this goes to a statement in our testimony that we really felt that we really needed to reach out to the actual farmers that would be involved in this program, and what kind of expectations they're facing, because we're not sure how to quantify the kinds of economic trade-offs that are being anticipated or expected by those that would be participating in the program. And because we don't have that information, we're not sure what kind of numbers everyone is looking at as a reasonable compensation or justification for these very, well-intentioned activities. And, definitely something that we need to strive to. But I don't think we have the data that allows us to quantify what kinds of numbers we're looking at.
And do you think this is something I guess I'm thinking if we want to make something like this happen, it might be worthwhile just getting a group of people together, maybe during interim, to talk about how it would actually work and bring in some farmers and different groups. I don't know I think there's the Greenhouse Gas Sequestration Task Force is listed as along with all the other duties they're already supposed to be administering to administer this proposed new program. But I think it might be even just like an ad hoc group of people getting together to have a conversation about how to make it work.
Right.
And I saw, if you want to comment on that, and I saw Dave Smith, you maybe had something to add.
Yeah, no, I totally agree that, that would really help. And yeah, I'll let Dave speak to that.
I was just going to suggest, I see Danielle popped up too, but OP might be the, the right agency to lead that conversation. Carbon, we're working on trying to get something going with carbon. I know OP is really interested. It's difficult, making it actually work, coming up with something that's economically viable, and we're working really hard on that, and we'd like to continue to do that. And this planning piece moving forward on how to actually implement something, that might be the role for OP to fill. I would suggest I'll defer to Danielle on that.
Okay, Danielle, did you want to comment?
Thank you, Chair. Although we don't have a number to provide you at this moment in time, what I would like to share for the committee's information is that the Greenhouse Gas Sequestration Task Force, with the original $150,000 provided to the task force to perform the research and development of carbon positive incentivization and programs, we did provide some of that funding to the Hawaii Agricultural Resource Center. That information is available on our website at the Greenhouse Gas Sequestration's website. The HARC actually provided reports to the Greenhouse Gas Sequestration Task Force, the Office of Planning, and did show that carbon positive incentivization via those grants provided by the legislature did incentivize farmers to produce or to provide more carbon positive, soil friendly administration in their farming operations. We've also have some preliminary data provided by the University of Hawaii in their research in terms of soil health and how that can actually incentivize our farming community as well. So we're beginning to see that data become available, and we are happy to, work with all of the agencies involved, collaborate more so that we can have more R&D to help influence and encourage our farming community to be more carbon positive and improve our soil's health throughout Hawaii. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, members? Okay, we will recess for decision making. the joint committees on energy and environmental protection and agriculture. We're going to vote on Senate Bill 493. We have a lot of questions still about this and the implementation, so we're going to hopefully continue to have some conversations about it. But for now, we want to keep this moving forward for further discussion. So it already has a defective date, I believe. Yes. And the major change we're going to make is instead of putting a new allocation of barrel tax towards this, we will blank out the amount of barrel tax that goes to the food security special fund, and then put a blank amount for the new special fund. And what we're looking at doing is to just transfer some of that 15 cents that currently goes to the food security special fund to fund this program should this bill move forward. And some technical amendments are also needed. And I think that's it. Members, any comments, questions, discussion? If not, Vice Chair, please take the vote.
All right, so Chair recommends passing SB 493 with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Rep. Hashem? Rep. Pruso? Rep. Tokioka? Rep. Matsumoto? And seeing that Rep. Machiyoshi and Rep. Todd are excused, your recommendation is adopted, Chair.
Okay, committee, same recommendation. Can you please take the vote? Does any members change their vote? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. We're adjourned.